G'day guys, back with the Outer Circle, and yesterday we spoke about the different Legion traits and making modifications and amendments to them. I had a lot of people basically comment in the video and say, well, this trait still isn't that great because of X, Y, or Z reason. And I agree. I agree with you all on those specific points. What you got to understand is this is the first step in rewriting everything. There are a whole bunch of changes that I want to make to the edition, to the legions, and traits is only the first step in that. And the very first part of that first step for me was defining each category. So your basic infantry, your bulky infantry like your Terminators, your bikes, jet bikes, that sort of thing, and land speeders, then your dreadnoughts as a category, and then your vehicles as a category. And certain legions feel stronger in certain areas. And in some cases, people would say things like, oh, well, this one's very niche, or this one is very situational because, oh, I don't get this bonus unless I get all the way to the other side of the table. It's like the whole point of it is to give you a bonus, but the bonus isn't just a gimme. It's not just a here, you are better than everyone else because you pick this legion. The bonuses are thematic. What you also have to understand is that these different bits of war gear and other rules, like changing how some of the reactions work, some of the war traits, and most definitely the rights of war, dramatically changes things as well. As an example, let's think the White Scars. The White Scars, I gave a boost to movement, but I didn't give them any rules related to jet bikes. And people immediately say, well, what about fixing jet bikes? Fixing the jet bikes and leaning into that is in the right of war. So one of the changes I would make to their principal right of war revolving around bikes would be that White Scars bikes gain battle hardened 1. That is a monumental change to how bikes perform in this edition, and it turns them from very underwhelming but usable in certain niche scenarios into as strong as they were the last edition, if not exceeding that strength in some categories. And that's with just one change to the right of war. We also have this when it comes to certain Legion specific specialists and special units. For example, my current problem with the Raven Guard, as someone actually pointed out in the comments, is that the Raven Guard's Legion traits gives no bonuses to their Legion elite units. And there's not much of a buff given to them because, well, the Mordathan would still get no benefit, although the Dark Furies now get a significant benefit. The Mordathan get no benefit in my rules. Yes, this is true, but I am rewriting their Decapitation Strike and how that works. Same as the Alpha Legion. The Alpha Legion in my little rules here have a very, very similar set of rules to what they have now, in that it's a -2 range on all the shooting towards their army, and I've put in there apparently it's what everyone was raving about, was the one thing you really liked was my mechanic with them regarding their vehicles. Well, in their right of war, that's where the mutable tactics comes back. So I am going to rewrite every single one of these rights of war the same way that I've rewritten these traits, and then I will present them to you with that in mind. On top of this, there's also war gear. Oh, but by the way, let me know if you actually want to see that. Now, on top of this is war gear. I've noticed a distinct clusterfuck around Legion war gear, how it works, how it interacts, and how it's written. So let's go for some of the more egregious examples first. The Imperial Fist Storm Shield, when you buy it for a character, doesn't replace any item of war gear. So they get a Storm Shield in addition to the other war gear types. That's just silly. It's not called for, and it doesn't improve the game. It does, however, make that Legion, which is already the strongest, even stronger, and it's one of the reasons why. And then we can take someone like the Thousand Suns, who have a Chaos Force weapon, but they cannot take it on any of their independent characters or consoles. And that's just stupid, isn't it? So that has to be changed. I also looked at Emperor's Children, and people I think feel that the Emperor's Children, as I've written them, are slightly underwhelming. But one of the weapons I want to introduce is the Phoenix Hammer or Phoenix Maul. I think Phoenix Maul just sounds cooler. But it's a one-for-one replacement for a Thunder Hammer, and it would replace it would be an option that can be purchased in numbers in units like the Palatine Blades or in the Phoenix Terminators. Now, it wouldn't be a everyone can take it weapon, but it's going to look identical to Eidolon's hammer, and it has the same rules as a Thunder Hammer, except for the fact that if you charge, it strikes at initiative, which makes it a terrifying weapon. It would be a fantastic weapon, and I would potentially open it up for a significant points cost to a Legion Praetor of the Emperor's Children, because that's the sort of war gear I think we should be leaning into. Very thematic, but also not just saying everyone in units can have it. There's too much having your cake and eating it too in this edition, and I want to try and take a step back or a step away from that if we possibly can. And with the Emperor's Children at the moment, if they get a charge off, they're okay, but they're paying a lot of points to do essentially a worse job than many other legions would, and you really have to stack all the advantages in your favor. I don't think that's a productive means of currently writing the rules. And I have this in multiple categories, ways I would change war gear. Obviously, changes to all of the Legion specific war gear would have to occur in some capacity. I also discussed a raft of significant increased changes, and this is a bit hard to explain in this format because I'm just going to have a flat screen over this video because I'm not putting a huge amount of effort into editing. I'll honestly admit that, because I have need of a root canal right now and I'm on multiple opioids and I'm just out of it. But one of the changes that I think should be done is completely rewriting command squads. So all consuls will essentially be removed from the game, and consuls now become an upgrade of one per army to a unit type, except for in a command squad. Now, a command squad can be updated or upgraded to have a chaplain, a librarian, a master of the forge, a herald, or a champion or a primus medicae. So those consuls can all be purchased as a part of a Legion command squad. And a Legion command squad is led by a centurion. So very similar to how Solar Auxilia buy a separate command squad, or how Militia buy a separate command squad, and you have the Praetor as their own thing. So you get this command squad, and then you can upgrade it if you don't have a Praetor. So the Delegatus, so the Centurion becomes a Delegatus in charge of the squad. And then we can also upgrade those different people. So depending how much you want to spend on your command squad, you can upgrade to the different consul types within it. Now, for something like an Armistos, the consul who improves your Legion Heavy support squads, that would become an upgrade to one Legion Heavy support squad, and it would replace your squad sergeant. And I would also have an upgrade to things like tactical squads, where you can upgrade your squad sergeants to squad veteran sergeants, and there will be additional buffs tied to this. Maybe not extra attacks, but definitely extra leadership. So it isn't an auto include. It might be for some people, but it's points dependent. If something costs 15 points to upgrade from a sergeant to a veteran sergeant for plus on leadership, some people will jump on that. Others will say, I think that's very niche because the character is still essentially at the raw stats level a sergeant. I'm just paying for an extra point of leadership. They might not want to do it, but we're giving people back the versatility, the option, and we're starting to downsize on all the problems that are intrinsic to the balance of having all these different consoles and then having to farm them out across the edition into all these different units. Because how do you balance a console and say this is going to be fine in every single army when you say it can join every single Legion elite specialist unit in the game? You end up with a whole host of issues that arise from this. So that has to be another thought here. Another thing was, on top of changing it so that these consoles become unit upgrades, so like Siegebreaker becomes a quad mortar crew upgrade, for example. One quad mortar crew member can be upgraded to a Siegebreaker, you know. this I think would work really, really well in the game. A single Legion Recon squad can upgrade a squad sergeant to a Vigilator, right? And if you took a Rite of War, the say Recon Company Rite of War, then you could upgrade every sergeant to the Vigilator. And this is how I would get around, and I'd be moving to more of a Chaos 3.5 style of layout, because I think that, for me, it's my own personal bias, and feel free to disagree in the comments, because there is no one true way to do this, and mine could be totally off kilter. But I think this would be a lot more balanced, and that book did it better than most, I think. Another thing was Primarch bodyguards. So, thinking it over, at the moment, the Primarchs just go with whoever. I think Primarch should have a fixed bodyguard type, and it's basically that is who you can take, and they get a specific like Legion buff related to the fact they're with their Primarch. So, for example, if you took Dark Angels, you can take Deathwing Companions as a Primarch to Lionel Johnson. Those Deathwing Companions get access to the armories of Old Knight, and they get additional war gear options. Right, you can take a unit of Dawnbreaker Cohort with Sanguinius. These Dawnbreaker Cohort become Sanguinary Guard, and they get their own bonus. And that bonus will probably be something very similar to what Sanguinius himself receives, and we're probably looking at Rampage and Furious Charge on that unit. And basically went through all of these. With Vulcan, it was his Fire Drakes Battle Hardened versus everything, as opposed to Battle Hardened versus that particular niche of weapons and war gear. And that was he took Fire Drakes, had to take Fire Drakes. Ferrous Menace, I wanted to combine the rules of the Gorgons and the Morlocks into one, because I think that would work a little bit better than this current weird mishmash of the two units that they have at the moment. For Angron, he could take Red Butchers, and this Red Butcher unit did not have to be attached to Angron, but every time the Red Butchers unit destroys another unit, like Angron, they get an extra attack on every model. Now, how likely is it they're going to have significant numbers over time of doing that? Not a lot, but I think by doing this, yes, it makes the game more inflexible in many ways, but I think it would do wonders for balance, and it keeps it within the theme of the Horus Heresy. We're all about theme in the Heresy as a community. And I know it's very generalized to say that I'm speaking on behalf of the community, but my observation is that Heresy players tend to have really thematic armies globally. I see it all the time when I'm looking through Instagram and when I'm watching battle reports online, and obviously through my own interactions. So I think that having it become a little bit more rigid wouldn't hurt us in this case, and it would make balancing so much easier for the game. So there you go. There'd be changes to command squads, to Legion consoles, and how both of those things work in the game. That's the first thing. The second thing is that there will be specific bodyguards for Primarchs. That way it cuts down on the what if the Primarch joined this unit, how do you balance that shenanigans. Also change to consoles and how they become an upgrade to Legion units, rather than being you can take this and put it into any old unit, because I think that just works better for the theme of the unit type. All right, these consoles are supposed to be in these units. Let's encourage people to do it without filling up all of the HQ slots. And HQ slots should really just be cut down to two: Praetor and Command Squad. And that should be it. Like Moritat should be an upgrade to a destroyer unit, not its own separate character. And in the case of one who is, again, one of the things that we should also consider as a community is having two different tiers of HQ. Like old Warhammer Fantasy did, they had lords, they had heroes. We should perhaps consider doing something similar to that. Even as a halfway point between what I'm proposing and what the current system is creating this hero tier where you can buy lesser powered consoles and they fill that up rather than taking up the primary HQ. So this is all thoughts I've had. Also want to change Rites of War across the board and Legion war gear across the board. And there would be some significant changes in here. For example, one of the ones I would like to introduce for Iron Hands is Bionics. bring back Bionics from the old edition and using that as a war gear upgrade. Now, how I use it, that's a question for another time because I have some really cool ideas. Well, I think they're cool around that. Anyway, I hope that clarifies where my head's at for rewriting Legion traits. For those of you who say, well, I don't think there's a lot to be gained from the Death Guard having ignores dangerous terrain and such, and bonuses against pinning. Well, when they have a rite of war, which is similar to the Firewing, where they're leaving whole patches of the table covered in dangerous terrain, yeah, I think you will care. But anyway, that's it for me. I guess I'm doing a slow rewrite of the entire rule set, but for me, it's more just an exercising in catharsis at this point. A coping mechanism for the game. The game is far from unplayable, and you can definitely win with any faction currently. It's just sometimes you're pushing it uphill, and you notice that in like my Salamander's army that I took. I was taking a very boring list, practically a net list, You can make a joke about it, because that's practically what I made. Taking 3 swords of pyroclasting land raiders just seems like such a net listy thing to do. But it was the only way to make Salamanders effective. You can't just take regular combined arms with Salamanders like you could with another legion, like, Dark Angels or something, and expect to have the same results. They don't have the war gear, they don't have the trait to do this. You go up against someone who does, you're going to get it handed to you no matter how good you think you are as a player. And don't forget, Lady Luck is always playing a part in this. And this is the stuff I want to get away from, this is the stuff I want to avoid. Anyway, I'm back with the Outer Circle. Thank you all for watching this probably rambling, incoherent, oxycodone-filled mess, but I hope I got across my point. Really appreciate you guys hanging in there to watch the channel. I'm doing a PC upgrade at the moment, so expect to see some weird issues with videos coming because I'm going to change video editing software and a few other things along the way. That's all. Stop now. See you next time.